Welcome to the Love, Sex and Freedom podcast. This is where you're going to discover how to bring awakening into the body and into everyday life through powerful tantric teachings. Get ready to release, open, and step into your true power. I want to try something different where I can hear the in-breath and then the sound. So I'm going to show you something, the difference between a constant sound, which actually ends up expressing from the throat, but not necessarily being connected to the rest of the body, right? So I can go, or and same with pleasure. Can you feel the difference? And then feel the pleasure when I'm just constantly sounding. Feel that difference? So I want to hear the in-breath and then the sound. Yeah, it's just taking things a bit deeper. Because actually the in-breath, when it's coexisting to equal power as the out-breath and the sound, means that our masculine awareness is remaining with the breath, with the sound. And so see if you can feel the sound without the sound. So breathe. See if you can feel the sound. Now can you feel how much more authentic the silence is after you've discharged some energy? Right, you're all nodding, that's good. So now I want you to feel how much more spaciousness there is in the body. And maybe the sound, so everyone can open their eyes, the sound that comes from the silence that is your expression, once energy has been discharged from a place of awareness coexisting with life force, is actually an expression more from spirit than the identity. And what does that mean? That means that you're in the expression of your Dharma, the expression of what you came here to express in the world in this particular incarnation. And maybe you decided that before you even came here. And maybe whatever feels most important to you as you're connecting to yourself deeply and emptying out is actually the pulse of purpose. So a lot of people say to me, like, I don't know what my purpose is. I have all of these different gifts, or I have all of these different avenues I could go. And it's not like there's this cosmic plan for you that you have to try to find. The cosmos is within you. You're a divine being, you're a soul that has incarnated into flesh, and some people's purpose is just doesn't even go beyond the womb. They incarnate into the womb and then they leave to have an impact on whoever's lives they touch in whatever way. Some people have very short lives. Some people have very long lives. And to me, the pulse of purpose and expression in the world is all about what's most important to you and what is authentically most important to you. And you only can feel what's most important to you if you stop overthinking it and feeding yourself with so many external pieces of information from social media, from podcasts, from teachers, from all of these things that are out there, which are actually really just indicators of your golden shadow. So we've talked a lot about, seeing the reflection of what you suppress through what you're attracting in others and triggers, and that's spoken a lot about in terms of shadow work. And I didn't go directly into it yesterday, but often if someone is triggering a lot in you, it's either something that you're suppressing that you need more of, or something that they're expressing that you also are like, but you don't fully own, right? So there's been times when Matissa's capacity to relax and do nothing triggers me because I need more of that. There's times when my proactive doing nature triggers him because he's needed more of that, and we're coming into balance through each other. So the path to awakening in relationships and through triggers, so go, okay, why is this triggering me? And that doesn't mean that you're not feeling about people, he's actually a jerk, or she's superficial and not gelling with me. You can still have thoughts and judgments without them being about you if there's not a strong trigger. You can observe that someone is selfish. You can observe that someone is hiding, right? Observations are different to triggers. But if you have a strong charge about something that someone is expressing, that's because you're suppressing it. And when we're looking in terms of purpose and you expressing yourself in the world, you're naturally going to get triggered in a good way by the reflection of actually your potential. Triggered in like, oh, okay, I'm drawn to them and I want more of them, and you can feel a charge that's drawing you towards them. Or triggered in a way that you're comparing yourself and you're jealous. And when you look at life through the lenses of anything in the external that is creating a strong reaction in the body as being a direct message from the body about something that you're suppressing within yourself and could be expressing, or something you need to find in yourself relative to a boundary or a request or a need, then life gets a lot more interesting because you're no longer trying to control your external reality. You're looking at what's within. And so to actually feel what's most important to you, you need to have enough spaciousness in your life that your mind's not constantly caught in what people think, what that person's doing, how are they so popular, or what's the message that they have, all of this external focus. Like, they're not creating safety for me. They're not letting me be free. It's all actually fucking irrelevant. When you're living in the full expression of who you are, there is a recognition that in order to align with what's truly important to you, you need enough spaciousness in your life to do that. And that spaciousness is created by no longer resisting what's coming up internally as a result of the external. And if we could be in a state of non-resistance and clear out, then also what happens is spirit can flow through us a lot more freely. So there's this kind of popular thing that I'm noticing where big leaders have said, it's not your light that you're most afraid of, it's your dark, or you're afraid of your power, right? And people take that and go, oh, I'm not stepping up because I'm afraid of my power. I think it's a load of bullshit and a cop-out, because a lot of the leaders who said that, yes, they were afraid of their power because their power was impacting the world to a point that they could get persecuted and killed, right? So it was through their lens. And from my experience of working with people, it's not our power that we're afraid of. It's not stepping forward that we're afraid of. It's a fucking cop-out. What you're afraid of is rejection and not being accepted and not succeeding, and then eventually being isolated through that. So everyone take a deep breath. And the other thing that comes up in terms of fear is, if I actually follow what's important to me, what if I have no security? What if I have no money? But what if you take purpose wider? What is the purpose of life if not to do what's most important to you now? Because we have this unconscious, sometimes conscious view where we think we're going to just live forever, right? And then we get to a certain age and we're like, oh, fuck, I've just wasted all of my life. We're not going to live forever. And, you know, I keep coming back to this thing of, do you need an emergency to actually live the life you're meant to live? If you had 2 years to live, what would you be bringing forth? And purpose can change. What's most important to you can change. But what matters is that you are in alignment with what's most important to you. And I remember when, you know, what was most important to me was being a mother. And then that started to shift into sharing in the corporate world, ways that they could bring mindset work and personal development into running their own business in a way that was a lot more easeful and prosperous. And then when I found Tantra, that shifted. And at each point of that shift, there was something that I had to give up, right? And when I entered Tantra, it's like I was on 150,000 a year as a base wage, which 20 years ago was a lot, plus commission. And I was doing something that was pretty fucking good. Like I liked my job. I enjoyed it. But all of a sudden, that's not what was most important to me. What became most important to me was to share what changed my life and to affect change on the planet at a more global level, or like a more impactful level. And I've always, for as long as I can remember, and, you know, thinking back to what was important to you as a child is always good. I remember I had this client who he always wanted to be an architect, but his parents wanted him to take over the business that he was running. And, you know, we were going into purpose and him not knowing what he wants to do, but actually forgetting that once upon a time he wanted to be an architect. And to get to that remembering, I said to him, what did you love to do when you were a child? And he said, I loved Lego. I would play Lego like for 8 hours a day and not realize that the time is passing. And often your purpose is actually connected to what you can do for hours and hours and hours, and you lose track of time, right? And I'm like, okay, what would it be like to be an architect now? Like, how would that feel? And actually he went on to studying architecture and becoming an architect. And I got a very moving letter from him. And there's lots of stories like that where I've supported people to feel into What is it that creates meaning? Now, the other thing that often gets misinterpreted is that your purpose is going to be connected to what brings you joy. And yes, that's true, right? But it's also what creates most meaning to you is also always going to have challenges. It's like you may feel like becoming a mother or a father is going to create a lot of meaning for you. And any parents out here knows that that is not always rainbows and fucking unicorns. You know, there's like, they have to be fed, their nappies have to be changed, they need this, they need that. You can't just chill and be in your own energy. You're constantly attuning. However, if that's what feels like the most meaningful thing for you to do at a given point in your life, and that's where your purpose is, then to alleviate the struggle of that, there has to be an acceptance of the challenges that come with that. So doing what I'm doing has created the most meaning in my life. Has that come with challenges? Of course. And it's whenever I'm resisting those challenges that I either need to look at changing things up, right? Sometimes. And sometimes it's a simple case of, this is the way of it. You know, someone who chooses, like Matisse for a long part of his life, that his purpose was actually in the evolution of his being and traveling and exploring. So that, of course, came with some challenges because it's definitely not what society deems as acceptable. And he didn't have the security and safety of a stable home that, you know, created routine. So no matter what feels aligned with what's most meaningful to you, of course it's going to have challenge. And our choice in resisting those challenges is such a central piece to living a life of meaning without being in the struggle of that. And sometimes purpose changes. If it does, you know, like breathing into that, it's like, actually, if I'm not resisting that and just feeling that, this is no longer creating the same meaning it did for me, and I need something else. So, you know, for me at the moment, it feels like actually I'm going to be able to affect more change by focusing on community and grounding a community somewhere in the world, right? And that may not be imminent, but may not be next year, but I know it's coming. I can feel that that's what's going to create the most meaning in my life. And that's arisen both from what I'm needing in myself, but also what I can feel that, you know, people are coming to retreats and then they're going home and they don't have tribe and they don't have a collective community of experiencing pain and pleasure together in such a way that everything becomes a lot more exalted and easier. You know, many hands make light work. And it doesn't really make sense to live in a nuclear environment if you think of our primal biological naturalness. So everyone take a deep breath. So I want you to contemplate. What actually feels most meaningful to you? And if you were going to die in 2 years' time, what would you be filling your time with? What would you be expressing? As a soul, what feels most meaningful to you? And it doesn't have to be some big thing. It can be, you know, baking bread. and selling it, creating your own brand of bread. It can be maybe what creates meaning to you is being really organized. Because whatever it is, whatever feels meaningful is your gift to the world. And your purpose, your dharma, is a gift to the world. Because it's something that is naturally creating meaning to you, whether that's to be an architect, whether that's to sing, whether that's to teach, whether that's to have a child, whether that's to travel, whether that's to going to non-stop retreats for a year. That's what I did. That's what created the most meaning for me, to completely devote myself to traveling around the world to sacred sites and experiencing my own evolution. And then slowly started teaching, but kept doing that. There was like 5 years there where what created most meaning was to keep learning and experiencing fields of authenticity and aliveness. If you removed all of the shoulds, if you took away what's going to make you look like some fucking whatever, if you took away how people are going to receive you, what creates most meaning to you, and then let's look at that. Let's look at the fears. Let's get real with, okay, if I went ahead and did that, I'm afraid that I would have no money. I'm afraid that people would reject me. I'm afraid that it wouldn't succeed. I'm afraid that I would end up isolated. I'm afraid of being rejected. And bring your hands to your body and start to tune into that fear. Because unless you being in your power is going to end up in your death or the death of your loved ones, literally, it's not your power that you're afraid of. It's the death of your identity that you're afraid of and everything that you identify with. So get fucking real with that, please. If you've been telling yourself you're afraid of your power, you're afraid of shining, I don't believe you. We don't live in a world anymore where there's not a level of freedom of expression, and you're not at that point yet where the freedom of your expression would lead to the death of yourself or your family. So let's go to the death of your identity that's tied in with your conditioning and the conditioning of society. That other people's opinions of you, other people's receivership of you, money, status is what determines your worth. You are fundamentally worthy as you are right now. And yes, you can feel that fear, but let's feel your fears and feel the expansion of being fundamentally worthy to express what's most meaningful to you in the world at the same time. Let's see if you can hold both. And is it worth not living a meaningful life because of those fears? You deserve to live a meaningful life now. You could die tomorrow. What are you waiting for? You want to have enough money one day that you can kick back and enjoy your life? What if every day that you sacrifice your soul, you're penetrating more and more conditioning into your cells and your body to not be in your body, to not have a meaningful life? to be fully expressed in the world, in alignment with what is most meaningful, takes courage. There's always going to be parts of that path that are difficult. The nature of life is pain and pleasure. There's nothing you can do to avoid that. It's the very nature of life, the very nature of living in duality. There are ebbs and flows. But are you willing to be okay with that? What if, yes, you're afraid of rejection, you're afraid of persecution, you're afraid of isolation, you're afraid of not being accepted, you're afraid of judgment, but there's a part of you that knows that even if you were rejected, even if you were judged, even if no one bought your product or came to your retreat or listened to you play music, that actually you could be with that because you're not living your life trying to avoid fucking pain. That you're living your life with courage and that you are willing. You are willing to feel the fire of your soul and what creates meaning to your soul, and hold the bastion of that flame high up in the air proudly, and know that it is much more worth being a leader of the flame, of the torch of passion, than being a sheep looking for that torch in someone else or in something outside of yourself. You are the holder of the flame. What's your unique flame? What's your unique essence? And do you have the courage to follow that no matter what? Because you know that within you, you have the capacity to be with whatever arises inside of you when you follow that flame. Because actually you do. You have your breath. You have the container of your masculine energy that can hold space, witness without judgment, create safety, and implement in action the stirrings of your soul and what creates meaning for you. Thanks for listening to the Love, Sex and Freedom podcast. For more great free resources, in-person and online workshops, and our retreats, find us on Instagram and Facebook at Embodied Awakening Academy or visit embodiedawakeningacademy.com.